we go.
Be literally translated as loving people. Can you share an example
So,
of Black philanthropy that doesn't involve a cash donation?
Yes,
The Greek root of philanthropy may be literally translated as loving people. Can you share an example of Black philanthropy that doesn't involve a cash donation?
yes, absolutely. There are examples of mutual aid and how folks come together and create circles, for lack of a better definition, in terms of offering what we do have. Whether it's a ride to a doctor's appointment, a pat on the back, literally lifting someone up, um, sharing our resources, baking a cake for someone who may be suffering a loss or grieving, taking soup and food to people who are sick, in all kinds of ways that we express love and care for each other.
Yes. When you think about other types of gifts, clothes, food, all those types of needs, bedding, people have needs. Sometimes they're temporary, sometimes they're long term, but they have needs. Cars,
Mhm.
you see, give a car. There's just so many material things other than money that people need and that people have and are thinking about just tossing it. Um, there's a guy that comes around and picks up whatever you're getting rid of. So I sent him a text and asked him, what do you do with this stuff? Because I like to think about somebody else using it. And
Mhm.
he said, some I repair and sell,
Mhm.
some I give away, some I just toss if it's just no use. So I
Mhm.
was just so glad to hear that he considered it being used again. Even if he's earning some money off of it or if
Mhm.
he's giving it away. I was just glad to hear that. Um, the other thing is love. Sometimes we only think about material things, but there are a lot of people out there that need love.
Yeah.
They need hugs. They need to know somebody cares.
Mhm.
And if you just give that, that's a lot. Give a
Yeah.
little bit of your heart to somebody else, and that's a lot.
Sure. So as I was sharing earlier, I was just thinking about how we all give with, from whether it's participating in our church, volunteering, our time and our talent, I kind of don't want to share a story about myself, but maybe I should because of what I do as a photographer, and it's important to share these stories. But I just the elders that are around me, that live near me, I'm consistently wanting to be a good neighbor and be supportive of them. And so making sure that they have the resources they need, or even there have been times where I've had to, help them in an emergency situation. They called me, and that's an honor. And I think that's an example of giving of my time and talent, and it not being, and because to advance my community. So that's an example. And then recently I was on a trip to DC with communities and schools, and there were about 15 mentors on that trip and about 15 to 20 students, majority Black students, majority Black mentors, giving their time to walk with students through the African American Museum and to share their social capital with with these students. So to say, hey, how can I help you with being in graduating high school? How can I help you in your next leg of your career? Who do I know? And opening up not our checkbook, but our contact book to
Mhm.
share with the future generation. So I see that so often in our community. And again, it's a story that I think we all need to share what we're doing personally and what we see in our community. And I appreciate that you're documenting this because we just need to continue to tell the story of how and raise up how we are philanthropists.
Yeah. Literally, literally, I would say 75% of what I would describe as Black philanthropy does not include cash donations. I led mission teams to various parts of the country and in the world where we actually took a jar of peanut butter, everyone on the team, to Jamaica, West Indies. And when I didn't even know Jamaica had mountains until we started going to the site where we were serving. And that we would literally have hundreds of children, and we didn't have enough peanut butter or juice to serve hundreds of children, but we would give them a half of a peanut butter sandwich and a bathroom size cup, the little cups you use to rinse
Dixie
your mouth
cups.
out in the bathroom,
Yeah.
of orange juice. And they would say, "Oh, thank you, Mom. Thank you. Thank you." And literally, I would be, I'm joking, I'm talking about it. Literally, I would be in tears because these children are grateful for a half of a peanut butter sandwich and a bathroom sized cup of orange juice. And I thought, wow, we are so blessed, but also we are also serving as a blessing to others that we didn't know were in such dire straits.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when I think of Jamaica or any of the West Indies or the tropical areas, all I see are the nice beaches, and I don't see people who are living and working on that island for people who are in the resort areas. But that gave me a different perspective. So
Right.
yeah, just whatever we do, just do it unto the Lord, knowing that you're blessing someone. You're being a blessing, and also you are being blessed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just wanted to share too that this made me think back to when I went to graduate school to get my MBA. One of the first things we did was a networking session, and they talked about networking. And I know I had worked in corporate America for a while before I went back to school, and had always kind of thought of networking as like brown nosing. And so when they really explained what it was, I remember thinking to myself, oh, that's a hookup. And so it wasn't, I think it was a revelation that, sometimes in the Black community and outside the Black community, we refer to things differently. And so when we think about philanthropy, a lot of times when you look at non-cash donations, it really is a hookup. I know somebody that has a job. And so I tell somebody, a neighbor or cousin or friend, about this opportunity. Or I found out about an organization that can help with something. And so I share that information. And so philanthropy, especially Black philanthropy, isn't always cash donations. Once again, I'm going to go back to that. It's our time, our talents, and our treasures. So let's look at the next question.
Even though the term Black philanthropy has only been around for a couple of decades, the practice has its origins in African traditions and practices. What are your origins in Black philanthropy?
Probably started with the jail and prison and mission ministry.
Okay.
Going to those types of places, and then realizing that and donating. We went as a part of a group that preached Christianity, and then I started realizing when I went to those places that they needed money too. So I continued the ministry, and I think that was kind of the love part. But then I started kind of regularly donating I think that's where it started, and then it kind of grew from there. Because once you're in that mindset, you start to see more, and you start to reach out more. And so I think that's how I started.
Okay. And just because I know you so well, I would probably say you started long, long before that. Because I can remember, just coming to your house as a kid and, being treated like I was your child And it wasn't just me. It was a whole group of us that would come and spend weekends or whatever you had for your kids, you had for us. And so I think sometimes we think of in the Black community when long before we had, lots of money, we had lots of love, like you said, for each other and lots of advice. And you are an excellent storyteller. And so you always made sure that we knew the history of, whether it was biblical or whether it was African American history or if it was just the community in the neighborhood and the stories of the people that grew up on 24th Street.
That's interesting. Even though I said love was a part of it, I didn't really think about that. Some people they don't understand my family because my family is big. I truly believe in extended family. So yeah. And you have been my child. Yeah, I guess I didn't really think about that, but I'm glad.
For me, it really goes back to my church and my family, the community I grew up in Western North Carolina. Just saw examples of everyday philanthropy all around me, and was inspired by that. And those were my lessons for how to give back, how to be a part of a community, how to give freely and philanthropically. And while perhaps the phrase Black philanthropy might be somewhat new, I often say that we ain't new to this, but we're true to this. Going back to W.E.B. Du Bois in 1904, he noted the significance of our giving and that Black people were more inclined to be philanthropic than any other race in the country. And he was looking back at the 1800s, and there are innumerable examples of Black people engaging in philanthropy, going back before this country was officially the United States. And in fact, our ways of giving help shape what we now know and call American philanthropy.
It goes back to my parents again and my grandparents. When my parents and my grandparents cooked, it was not unusual for whoever they knew, because most of the people who lived in the neighborhoods knew each other well, and they shared. We have a tendency now in the 21st century to want to hide our lack.
Right.
We want everyone to think that we are, well, balling out of control or whatever the dialogue is now. But people would often share when someone lost a job or if there was a death in the family and you had people coming in from other parts of the state or the country, and you were like, what are we going to do about food? What are we going to do about lodging? Because when I was growing up decades ago, hotels weren't welcoming, and there were only a few lodging houses that Black people could or were welcome to live in. So the doors were always open. If on Sunday, it was nothing for people to just say, you all come over and eat. I've got this. Did you have something to cook? Because you're going to see your neighbors, and you're going to see your neighbors. Then we sat out on the porch a lot, especially good weather. And you could see if your neighbor was sitting on the porch all day and hadn't gone in to eat, that there was nothing to eat. And many of them were honest enough to say, look, my kids are hungry. That was always the first priority, feed the kids.
Right.
My kids are hungry. I don't know of anyone on the streets that I grew up on that turned anyone away. Yeah. Sometimes instead of you having 2 pieces of fried chicken, you had one because you had to share with someone who had none.
Right, right.
Absolutely.
You know, my origins start with my mom and, you know, my grandparents, and seeing how my grandfather was a Christian Methodist Episcopal minister, and my grandmother went on to do that as well. So being a minister of a church, seeing how they gave their time to the church community, and they also gave literally their talents, whether it's preaching or whether it's playing a song, which is what my grandmother was, a concert pianist, to my mom, who contributed so much for me as a single mom, and then to our community, our neighborhood, a neighborhood where, you know, public assistance, public housing. She went on to become the manager of the apartment complex that we lived in, and worked with youth after school, you know, providing, you know, assistance to the residents to access the internet and get on computers and build their resumes. So my family is the origin of the philanthropy that I've seen, and we're a family of teachers and ministers, and my mom's gone on to be a minister. So so it's how we, you know, how we operate in. And so that's where my origins started, and I'm thrilled to be in the practice of it through the Giving Circle that I'm a part of, New Generation of African American Philanthropists, and through the work that I do at Knight Foundation.
All right. And I probably would have to echo what a lot of people said. I know my origins came from family, from church. And so I was taught very early on to give. And I do believe that we've taught our children also very on the importance of giving back.